Alright folks, so here I am at our usual spot doing the new moon in Pisces video. I'm really not sure that it's the best idea to wait after the new moon to do these videos. I do it because if you do something after a new moon as opposed to the 48 hours before, it should gain greater traction, but I have a feeling that people look for these videos before, so I might just do it before and kind of launch it a couple of times or send it out a couple of times, irrespective. The new moon was this morning at 8:04 and is now 5 something, just a few minutes before sunset. And this kind of sets the tone for the next 4-week period. There are 3 things I want to talk about in today's video. One is, I'm not going to adjust this. No, I'm going to adjust this. One is the fact that it's a new moon. 2, the fact that Mercury went retrograde in Pisces, the same sign where the new moon is occurring yesterday, March the 5th, and it remains retrograde to March the 28th. And number 3, why the date of March 5th and 6th is so important to the Capricorn eclipse that happened on January 5th and 6th. And all 3 of these are important, but the fact that the intention was to do this new moon video shortly after the new moon this morning, the fact that it was raining today, the fact that there were windows when I could have come outside and done this video, but I had set my day a certain way. And so there was a great deal of reluctance to really prioritize effectively and just kind of stick to this plan that was supposed to unfold. Not the best, not the most agile thinking. And that's really what I want you to hold on to as far as this anecdote is concerned. And then here we are, this is getting done. I just stepped out and it was raining really heavily and I thought, will I ever be able to get this done? And right in the nick of time, 10 minutes before sunset or 20 minutes before sunset, here I am, it's stopped and I can do this video. This is all very Mercury retrograde. Nothing goes according to plan. Your thinking is not the most agile. Everything has this slow plotting quality, and then things get done. There's also a certain amount of pressure I'm feeling with this particular video to say a lot about a lot of things. But now that I've started to do these astro tidbits, whatever I miss and whatever comes to me, I'll just keep releasing as the weeks go on. So feel free to, if you find these videos useful, to subscribe to my channel and click on the bell icon next to the subscribe button so you get notified when I upload new videos. It is a new moon, and the imprint of this new moon is going to remain with us for the next 4 weeks. A new moon starts a cycle. 2 weeks later we'll have a full moon, and then 2 weeks later we have a new moon. And this bell curve is really just indicating energy. After a new moon happens, energy accelerates, peaks around the time of the full moon when everything sort of comes to a boil and then starts to wind its way down slowly. The 48 hours or so before a new moon, and you can think about the 48 hours or so prior to 8:04 a.m. Pacific time, you know, really kind of starts to have a kind of a slow and a dead quality. Things start to flatline, we become sleepier, we want to rest, we want to purge the last 4 weeks. Energy becomes really flat. It's hard to get things started. It's easier to reflect and finish things up. After the new moon, energy starts to pick up again over the course of the next 48 hours. In addition, when it comes to a new moon, things that a new moon is trying to bring to you, subtle, unmistakable things start to show up around the time of the new moon. And certainly I would say, more often than not, I see them show up within 48 hours of a new moon. Then, oh, that's what it is. Now, does it help to know where the sign of Pisces would be in your chart? Absolutely. No question. You need to know what house it's in so that you have a sense of, okay, what area or topic or subject is this unmistakable thing going to be related to? But if you don't have that information and don't feel like collecting it right now, the question becomes, start to pay attention to things that start to come at you and your own energy that increases after a new moon. Subtle but unmistakable things. The energy of the new moon is also strongest for about a week and a half after the new moon, because by the time you get to the full moon, 14 days from today, the full moon starts to develop its own energy and creates its own imprint, and then we're dealing with all of that for the final 2 weeks of the cycle as we head to the next new moon. The next full moon, which is going to occur on the 20th, is one of 2 full moons in Libra, and I'll cover that more as we get towards it. But it's unusual to have 2 full moons in one sign. So it's going to be at about 0 degrees of Libra, and then in the last degree of Libra on April 19th, and we'll deal with that when we deal with it. But this is a new moon. However, it is a new moon the day after Mercury goes retrograde. And not only could the past 48 hours or so prior to the new moon have been flat, it could very well have been that the last 4 or 5 days had a flat quality. I'm going to spend a little bit of time on Mercury retrograde in a slightly different way. I'm going to do away with saying that Mercury retrograde, because this information is more commonly known and you can find out more about this more easily. But I'll go ahead and say the standard rules for Mercury retrograde apply. Delays. The best laid plans go awry. You have travel plans and then they need to be canceled or postponed. Flights, traffic, meetings, technology. You have an intention, you have a plan, and things are supposed to go a certain way and they don't. The worst of this is that it could impact meetings or critical things that have to happen, and you could end up looking bad. So I would be careful of those kinds of situations. The best of this and the best way to make use of this energy is to try not to get frustrated with it and to surrender, because you will not be able to manage or control this beyond a certain point. And the worst that will happen is that you will start to try to get something done and get frustrated that things are not moving a certain way and that the communication is all awry and people don't seem to be thinking straight and everyone is being irrational and bizarre, and you are going to lose your temper. And it is not going to help. The idea of someone, I wish I could remember, someone else on YouTube used the analogy of spinning your wheels and it not going anywhere. And it is exactly that. If Mercury is trying to slow you down and you accelerate and you start spinning your wheels, the car's not going to go anywhere. You're going to get stuck in the mud, and there's going to be a tantrum or a meltdown. And it is fine to have a tantrum or a meltdown, I think, around a full moon if you feel it's justified, because it can actually lead to something. To have a tantrum or a meltdown when Mercury is going retrograde or going direct is fruitless. So avoid it. If anything, use the slowdown and the time to smell the roses, to take a break, to read a book, to accept the fact that there is a need to reflect. And this brings me to one of the key themes as far as this new moon is concerned. The best way you could use this energy of this new moon in the next 4 weeks is to go over things gently. And these could be things that are related to crises that occurred in 2015 and 2016. Things related to crises in 2015 and 2016, and more specifically the end of 2015 and first 3 quarters of 2016, may have come up rather aggressively from the 15th of November to the 31st of December 2018, the November and December we just passed. So there could have been an urgency, an aggression, a hit, even a little bit of violence around verbal related to those issues. And here we are, and if you take a look at some of my previous videos, you've heard this theme before, the idea that since February the 10th, energetically, this part of the chart where there were crises in 2015 and 2016 are activated again in such a way as to make us deal with things so that we can put them to bed and rest by April, so that the new energies that have made their presence felt in January and February can have a place to go. January and February of this year, all planets were direct. And indeed, by the end of January, the pace may well have been so hysterically intense that after 2018, where so much of it, especially over the summer, was a period that felt like you were on top of a Ferris wheel and the Ferris wheel was not moving and your legs were dangling and nothing was happening, and there was such a paralysis and such a need to stay imprisoned within your current situation with nowhere to go for so much of 2018, that January and February may have really felt like you were being pushed forward practically. So it's wonderful when planets are direct, but I hope now that you understand and realize the advantage of having a retrograde planet every now and then. After Mercury goes direct on the 28th, we have another about 2 weeks or so of all planets being direct, but then Jupiter goes retrograde in April, in the middle of April. And then after that, for the rest of the year, pretty much some planet or the other is retrograde. So after Mercury goes direct on March the 28th, we have a 2-week period that may well move forward as well, but it's not going to have quite the same aggression as the end of January did, when every planet built a certain amount of momentum and everything was just kind of hurtling to some sort of Let's just say that we were pushed through a birth canal and we found ourselves on the other side of it, wailing and wet by the middle to the end of February. And here we are, and Mercury says, all right, infant, welcome to your new reality, which you have barely processed. Now let's take 3 weeks to deal with things from 2015 and especially 2016 that are holding you back emotionally, mentally, psychologically, and let's try and put those to bed, because until that's put to bed, you can't start to crawl, because it is holding you back. And it is not necessarily related to your purpose. So whatever that is needs to be dealt with so that you can move further forward. So if you have been able to identify, if issues related to crises in late 2015 and much of 2016 have been on your mind in some way, we now have a 3-week period where we got to go back over stuff. And you may be going back over stuff related to that time. You may be going back over stuff that has come up in the past 3 weeks. And I'm going to characterize this more in a second. And then after March the 28th till the middle of April is the final opportunity to dot the I and cross the T on certain things in such a way that even that there's the potential for healing. And again, I keep saying this in my videos, words like healing and positive and negative have to be taken in a certain light when it comes to astrology. You know, getting laid off could be a great thing if you're getting a decent severance package and it allows you to move in a direction that you want to. So a seemingly negative event could actually be positive. A health crisis that allows you to heal but put certain things in place that can extend your life by a certain amount can be a positive as opposed to a negative. So getting a promotion in a job that has a golden handcuff feeling that delays you from following your purpose for another 20 years can be a negative. So the debate, what does it mean to heal? Does it mean to move forward and separate from certain relationships? Does it mean to do a handshake? Does it mean to sort certain things in such a way that there can be some sort of a compromise that allows everyone to live with certain things and move forward, and there can be some sort of peace or stalemate where there's aggression? All of these are examples of healing that may seem counter to what you may think healing is, which is, oh, we get to rip the Band-Aid off and everything is going to be great and rosy and I will never have a problem again. That's not the human condition. But I will come back to the word healing and I will come back to the word progress in April. But this time in March that has just started is critically important. At its best, this Mercury retrograde may actually be quite peaceful if you use it proactively to go over things that you may have put in place to staunch the bleeding still occurring related to crises in 2015, 2016. And it may be that you had to take some measures after the middle of November and in December of 2018. And now you may have the time to say, what do we know? What do we learn, everybody? And what are the things that I want to go over so that I can revisit some old ground where there could have been misunderstandings, where things are not entirely clear, where we need to revisit certain things, where we can clarify certain things, where we can create a new understanding, where we can create the possibility of a new world in some ways, and we can have certain discussions and peacefully and proactively go back over certain things to say, is this in place? Are we clear about this? Is this there? Is this there? Is this there? Keep in mind that conversations during Mercury retrograde can go awry and off the rails very easily. And they often, at their worst, have a feeling of, you know, when you talk to someone in customer service and it's just one of those Twilight Zone conversations like, no, I bought this on the 5th and it says so here. But our records show you bought this on the 10th and they will not budge. And it's just like you feel like you're dealing with the craziest people, and it can have that kind of quality. However, I do think that you will find that things are automatically coming up to be revisited without much prompting. And it could be that the best possible use of the next 3 weeks is to revisit, reconsider, determine whether it makes sense to revisit old ground, but not to commit to things, because it might be that after March the 28th, once Mercury goes direct, you change your mind about things, or certain things become clearer. But the work you do in March sets up a tone for and sets up the opportunity to seal the deal. So the energies of this new moon and the time from March the 5th to March the 28th is not traditionally the best time to sign contracts or to put the pen to paper. It's a good time to keep things open, and it's the best and most peaceful possible use of this Mercury retrograde is to proactively go over things, to sort them out, clean them up. Is this okay? Is this done? Is this in place? Is that I dotted? Is this clear? Is this T crossed? To go over things kind of meticulously, to put certain things in place, to revisit, etc. It could be that after March the 28th, some more information emerges as you head into April. And in April, you will have Venus in Pisces. Venus loves to be, which is going to be a helpful and again, a healing planet after, and that's what we want as Mercury goes direct, to have a helpful planet in there with it as well. So I do think the theme of healing in April remains strong, as long as you use the next 3 weeks proactively and peacefully to revisit certain things. At certain points you may feel that you are revisiting certain things to stand up for yourself, and that's okay. It's to put better boundaries. It could be that in February things were done in such a way that there were actually, strangely enough, misunderstandings or mistakes, so the right impression was not set. And over the next 3 weeks you get to perhaps revisit old ground. But don't seal the deal quite yet. Just wait till April so that all that stuff can start to occur. It may be worth it. It's like things were put in a box, and it's important to open the box. This is a good analogy, and it's coming to me right now. You're packing a suitcase, and then you realize, I'm not really happy with the way the suitcase is packed. There's still some stuff here, and I instinctively knew in February when I packed the suitcase that this wasn't right, but now I have the opportunity, because I have some time, or because it's coming up again, when I get to unpack everything and repack it in such a way that it makes sense. And the next 3 weeks you can do so. And in April, if everything is fine or you need to make some adjustments, you can, and then you can close the packet or the suitcase and you can lock it. Okay, so the new moon's imprint on the day that Mercury is stationary, by all means endeavor to make progress and move forward on other things, because all other planets are still direct, and there's nothing wrong with, especially if you are planning to make progress of things on things from the past. You did research, you wanted to reach out to someone is reaching out to you from the past. You thought you would, if you're revisiting old ground, research you had done before, things you wanted to act on, by all means, when Mercury's retrograde, can be a great time to take care of pending tasks from the past and try to wrap those up. So the fact that the new moon is happening when Mercury's stationary doesn't mean that we're going to be halted for the next 4 weeks. It can actually be a great time to make progress, typically progress related to things or open items or open issues or things that are still not closed but have been started before. It's not the best time to start something brand new. Oh, I had this inspiration. I'm going to write a book about this. Not the best time to start that. Think about it, right? But let's say that 8 weeks ago, you had an idea to write a book and you started to do some research, but then you got sidetracked and now you're going to start working on it again. Great. You're not starting something brand new. It started 8 weeks ago, but now you're revisiting it and solidifying it and working on it. But when it comes to those 2015, 2016 issues, by all means, if the suitcase needs to be reopened and repacked, reopen it and start to repack it. Number 3, and this is important. I find that when it comes to eclipses, the 2-month anniversary of an eclipse, and when I'm talking about a solar eclipse, which is what we had on January the 5th, the 2-month anniversary after a solar eclipse, March the 5th and 6th, are really important. I find that I feel the impact so far. This was the first year when I felt the impact of an eclipse right after the eclipse. Typically, I feel the eclipse around the 2-month anniversary, and things become clear about what the eclipse was about. I know clients and friends and people who feel the eclipse right after it happens. Does it help to know where the sign of Capricorn is in your chart? Yes, and which house it's in and what those houses stand for, so that you know what you're looking for, and you get a sense that if something eclipsy happened, which is not subtle, which is big, and unmistakable, unlike a normal new moon, then you can go, aha, that's it. But if you look at a week before and after January the 5th, particularly after January the 5th, if something related to that time frame has come up again the week before March the 5th and the week after March the 5th, pay attention. This is not related to crises in 2015, 2016. This is new. So in my case, the eclipse happened in the part of the chart that has to do with pets. It has to do with health. It has to do with self-care. And right after January the 5th, one of my cats who was already unwell took a turn for the worse, and she passed away on the 12th. I mean, that is eclipse. A chapter ends. It was just, the eclipse happened, there was a turn for the worse, and it was decisive. She was eclipsed. And around that time, I started to feel certain health-related things, which, for various reasons, given the way things were going and given the fact that I was having my own forward movement, I ignored. And guess what? This last week, those health symptoms showed up again, clearly, unmistakably. Abby, pay attention to this. This is back. And I was like, 2-month anniversary, something gonna come? And it was like, bam, here it is. Now, we have an eclipse, solar eclipse on January the 5th in Capricorn. We have a corresponding full moon lunar eclipse on July the 16th of this year. And with the lunar eclipse, I look 2 months before to May the 16th. So, something started, and if it hasn't eclipsed something for you, like it did for me, a pet, in the part of my chart that has to do with pets. But let's take the health issue. So if something started at that time, made its presence felt at that time, the message has come to me again, it could very well be that I need to resolve it, I just need to continue to watch for it and take the steps that I need to take. But if it goes unattended, it very well could be that around May the 16th and July the 16th, I need to be very, very careful for some sort of conclusive flare-up or something like that. So you're really paying attention to, I don't mean to get personal and share personal things, and I don't do that typically, if at all. This might be the first time I'm doing it, but I'm trying to give you very specific examples of what to look for. So we're looking at the week before and the week after January the 5th. And at this point in time, because it's March the 6th when I'm doing this, you would look the week before and week after March the 5th to see if something related to where Capricorn is showing up again. Or is showing up in a way that is much more eclipsy. And eclipses can bring news or information related to serious issues, chapter turns. They don't have to be negative always, but it's a decisive end of a chapter, end of a book. You know how Tolstoy used to write, War and Peace and Anna Karenina have like 50 books, and each book has 100 chapters. No, it's more like they have 12 or 13 or 14 or 21 books, and each book has like 25 chapters or something like that. It's much more decisive. Now, the eclipses in Capricorn and Cancer this year are going to repeat next year. So it could be that things are getting set up this year to reach a culmination point next year. But they will affect every single person in a different way. But I do expect them to affect practically every single person I talk to. And I find that they do. Okay? I'm going to leave it at this. It's a 24 minute video, which is longer for what I do, but it's an important new moon, even if it is happening on the day when Mercury goes stationary. And so we're not expecting it to be an extraordinarily active and proactive time. I would argue with that. I think it's still a pretty active time. It's a new moon. It's the start of a cycle. Say goodbye to some of the horrible flatness of the last 4 or 5 days and be inspired to move forward and do something new. The sun is, I'm going to lose light in a second. I'm going to wrap this up, which is great. I did manage to do this, but later than intended. Mercury is stationary, retrograde from March the 5th to March 28th. Go over things and repack and take out things in a suitcase that are not packed well, especially if they're related to the issues that became crises in 2015, 2016 that you may have had to deal with from the middle of November of 2018 to the end of December 2018. They're here to be dealt with so that in April there can be some sort of healing or resolution. Okay, watch for the March 28th date, but I'm going to address that more when I do the full moon video close to the 20th of this month. And number 3, really try and pay attention to important events that may be related to thematic things that occurred the week before and the week after January 5th, especially the week after January the 5th, they might be here to knock on your door again. For some people, just as a message, for some people, much more decisively and kind of in a bad news way, or a good news way, or a resolution way, or an ending way, or an ending that creates a beginning way. Very eclipsy. It's a solar eclipse. It's something you're supposed to lean into and deal with, not something you're supposed to release. Pay attention to events week before and week after March the 5th and see if they're related to events the first week of January the 5th. Okay, they'll come back to us to be revisited again May 16th and then finally July 16th. All right, I will leave it at this. Like, comment, subscribe to my YouTube channel. Feel free to like the video, feel free to share the video, blah, blah, blah. And if you want more of these, click on that bell icon on YouTube next to the subscribe button so you get notified when I do new videos. All right, contact information is in there in case you have any questions or you want to request a reading or something along those lines. And that's it. Till my next Astro Tidbit. Take care.